Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second part of Chapter 1. It's on rational numbers, and we'll talk about what rational numbers are as we go along. Some of this may be reviewed from last year, working with decimals and fractions, and I'm sure it's most of your favorite things to do. So again, I'm Mr. Bush. I teach math on Orion. Ms. Watson and I work closely together. I will do some of the videos, and she will do some of the videos. We're using the same note sheet. The vocab, I thought instead of me having chicken scratch there, I would type it out. So rational numbers are any number that can be expressed as a fraction. Decimals can be made into fractions. Whole numbers, you can just take that number and put it over 1. You can make it as a fraction, so those are rational numbers. The next one is terminating decimals, and terminating means to end. Like the movie Terminator, the machine tried to end the human race. So a decimal whose digits do not repeat. All terminating decimals are rational numbers because we can change every terminating decimal into a fraction. And we're going to talk about how to do that now. So if you recall place value, we can use place value to convert each terminating decimal into a fraction. What we have to do is just look at the last digit and figure out what place value it's in. So this happens to be the hundredths. So this is 16 hundredths. And that's exactly how I write that fraction, 16 over 100. Now to simplify it, we need to find a common number that goes into both of those. And 2, because they're both even, so that would be 8 over 50. And they're still even, so I can reduce those. And I get 4 over 25, which is the simplified fraction of 16 hundredths. The next one, notice it's a negative, so I keep that negative. And the 8 digit is in the thousandths place value, so it's 218 over 1,000. And I can reduce that by 2. So 109, negative 109 over 500. And that's as far as you can reduce that one, so that would be the fraction in simplest form. Make sure you're careful of negative. If it's negative to start, when we make it a fraction, it still has to be negative. Number 3, 2, whole number 2, and 72 hundredths. Remember the 2 is in the hundredths place. So now I reduce that fraction. I can reduce it by 2. So I get 2 and 36 over 50. And I can reduce that by 2 again because they're both even. 2 and 18 25ths. So if you find a bigger number that goes into both of those evenly, you can use a different number besides 2. Actually, you could have used a 4 right here in the beginning. But I knew it was even for sure. And the last one, this is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000s. So this is 5 over 10,000. And I can reduce this one by 5. So this is 1 over 2,000. So you can convert any decimal, terminating decimal, into a fraction by just simply putting it over the place value of the last digit in the denominator's place. Convert each fraction to a decimal. There's 2 ways to do this. We can try and get in the denominator's place an equivalent fraction that has a 10, a 100, a 1,000, because then I can use what I did above here in reverse. So one way is if I multiply these by 5, and I chose 5 because 20 times 5 gives me 100. So I'm looking for like a 10, 100, or 1,000. So an equivalent fraction to 3 over 20 is 15 hundredths. So now to make this into a decimal, it's just the opposite of what I did up here, up above. Instead of the fraction, I write it as a decimal. So 15 hundredths would be there. The 5 is in the hundredths place value. The other way I could have done that, if you take the top number divided by the bottom number, so that means the 3 goes inside the box. Now if you goof up and you put the 20 inside and you divide it, you're going to get a whole number answer. You should know that 3/20 is less than 1 whole. So when I divide this using long division, 20 does not go into 3. It goes into 30 though once. I subtract. I bring down the 0. 20 goes into 100 5 times. So if you notice, it's the same answer, just a different method to get there. Trying to get to a number of 10, 100, 1,000 does not always work. So this method here will always work no matter what the numbers are. Number 6, I know that 5 times 2 is 10. So I get 14 over 10, which if I make that into a mixed number, it's 1 4/10. And I can write that as 1.4. 1 4/10. The 4 is in the tenths place. Again, I could divide this 5 into 7. Once, subtract, bring down the 0, and I get 1.4. So notice it's the same answer, just a little different work. Number 7, there's not a number that I can change that into, 10, 100, or 1,000. So this time I need to divide 16 into 3. Bring the decimal up right away. 16 into 30 is once. Bring down the 0. Now usually I can be a little sloppy, but when I'm dividing I try and be absolutely as careful as possible so I don't goof anything up. 16 goes into 148 times. 8 times 6, 48. Carry the 4, that's 128. Subtract. Bring down the 0. That goes in 7 times. 7 times 6, 42. Carry the 4. And now I need another 0. That's 8. Bring down the 0. And it finally stops here. So 3/16 is the same as 0.1875 or 1,875 10,000ths. Number 8, if I double this, I get negative 70 over 100, which I write as negative 70 hundredths. I don't need the last 0 there. I could have wrote negative 0.7. Either way, it's the same. So the rules that I just used, turning a decimal into a fraction, rewrite as a fraction, using the last place value as the denominator. Run out of room. So that last place value was the denominator. It was hundredths, and there's 100 on the bottom. Reduce fraction to, change this to simplest form. So that's decimals, fractions. Fractions and decimals is a little different. First way, divide the numerator by denominator. And this is where most people make the mistake. For some reason, they put the bigger number inside. So if a fraction looks like this, a over b, then the numerator goes inside. So it's b divided into a. So make sure that you're careful of that. Step 2, you continue dividing until it ends or terminates, or we're talking about repeating also. And number 3, be sure to put the negative sign if needed. Don't forget about that negative. If it's negative to start, it's going to be negative in the end. The other way that we talked about, find equivalent fractions, if you like that method, of denominators 10, 100, 1,000, something like that, and then write it as a fraction. So there's two different methods there. The one will always work, the one sometimes works.